right, my friends, what is happening out there in YouTube land? Yours truly, Rockin' Dave, the real deal. North Fort Myers, Southwest Florida. Excuse me a little bit. There. Okay. So, we hope everyone is doing well out there. And I do want to give our condolences out to Miss Sonia. I just learned yesterday during my live stream, and I saw it come up in the feed earlier today, and whenever you watched the live stream, that her brother passed, I guess, on Wednesday. So was Sonia. We're so sorry to hear that. It's always tough to lose a loved one. What is happening, my friends? Rebel Rocker, what is happening? Hold original music. What is happening? Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. This video, I'm doing this as a live stream. I'm starting to get a lot of my memory filled up on my phone here, so I figure, well, we'll just do this as a live, so everyone could kind of, join in and all this, that, and the other. But the whole video here is about adjusting to playing with 7 strings. Yeah, prayers out to Sonia. Yeah, it was sad to hear that, and it's always tough when you lose a loved one, family member, friend. It really is. And I'm not trying to bring anybody down, but I definitely wanted to send out the condolences and our prayers and thoughts with her. Okay, so what we got here, I do have to change these strings. Not the top, not these two, because I put these on recently, but the in between, because they've been sitting on the rack over at Guitar Center for a while, So, but getting used to 7 strings is something that, when you first pick these things up, what you start to notice is either your 3rd string, it seems to drop down, and it's like a combination of that appearance that it dropped down and another string added on, and that's basically what it is. But my best suggestion is besides practicing your scales and this, that, and the other on it, but the best thing to do is just play the music that you normally would play on your guitar, even if you're not doing anything with the top string, because you see, you need to get used to the visual of having this extra string. Now, for those of us who are used to playing classical guitar, the wide neck doesn't bother us because we're used to that. But for some, it will bother you because it's, the wider neck. Plus, this particular guitar, it is the scale length. I actually measured it from the nut to the saddle. And depending on how you have your saddles adjusted, it's going to sit somewhere between 26.5 inches and 27 inches. Maybe 26.5 and maybe 26 3/4, something. It's in that range. Because you see, as you adjust these saddles, if you got to move them back, it's going to pull that string back, so it's going to add, more measurement. The fret spacing could appear to be a little, slightly larger, further apart than on your standard guitar. So, to me, this falls in between the realm of a baritone guitar and a regular guitar. And for some, you might think of it as it's a baritone guitar with a high E string. So, getting used to that might take a little bit of time, but the best thing to do is, like with your chords, simply take a chord progression where your root note is on the low E string, and then for this case, since I got this string tuned to B, not low A, but tuned to B, if I take a chord progression of B minor to A major, to G major, back to A major, and of course, a lot of you out there that have already experienced with this, you're going to have more experience than I am, so, this is nothing new to you. But what is really good to do is experiment with those chord progressions, and then, for instance, add a B minor to A major, and then maybe E minor, where your root note is on your A string. And then back to your B minor on root note on 6th string. And the reason why I'm saying that is because visually you're going to notice that with that open B, when you're playing your regular B minor with the root note on the 6th string, you might mistake it as, oh, wait a minute, I have to bring my fingers up. See, it can kind of throw you off visually. And then when you're playing minor chord or major chord, where the root note is on the A string, now you got 2 open strings, so it can kind of like throw you off a little bit. So, and if you could do this, take major and minor 7th chords, like your jazzier sounding chords, although it's a B major 7 with the open low B. This is a good thing to do too, because you have your root note on your 6th string for this B major 7. Now I'm going to go to an E flat minor 7, where my root note is in my A string. Now I'm going to go to E natural major 7. Again, root note is on the A string. So now I got 2 open strings here. So maybe I'll word that differently here. We got B major 7, D sharp minor 7, E major 7, and back to D sharp minor 7, and back to B major 7. Let's see what's going on here. And then we'll bring that back down. There you go. So it takes time to get used to doing this because it's a visual thing. And then what at least what happens with me, excuse me, visually, I think I got the wrong string, then all of a sudden your fingers want to fumble and bumble and stumble, you know what I mean? Because now you got these extra strings. Little phase shifter there, you know. Another thing is melodies. So, whenever you have, for instance, you're doing vocal melodies, right? Maybe put a little overdrive. And take that off. So what happens is that the treble strings seem to be further down. Now, there's one way that it has been helping me. It might help you guys. It's very simple to distinguish between your treble strings and your bass strings, because obviously your bass strings are wound, you know, your treble strings are not. But the thing is with the D string, if you play an acoustic steel string where you have your 3rd string that's wound, well, it's easy to mistake your D string as your G. And then you think, okay, well, that is this next one here that is really A. You think that's your D, your E is your A string, and your low B is your E string. So it can really throw you off if you're not, careful. It really does come down to spending some quality time with the instrument, It really does come down to that. But there are certain benefits that you do have with having a stringed instrument where you have, extended range. It doesn't mean you have to always use it. It means that you have that there. as a really good creative option. Um, and I got this idea by, checking out a video. This actually goes back a while back. Ibanez 7-string jazz hollow body jazz guitar, and the what these guys were getting out of it was great. Now I've been hip to some of these multi extended range instruments, because in classical guitar you do have a company, a couple companies make these 10-string nylon string guitars, and it's not like a 12-string where they're doubled. It's actually, the neck is about this wide, so you really going lower in the range. Um, Really great if you're going to play any Bach pieces and other Baroque pieces and Renaissance pieces where you need that extended range. And then with it being a nylon string guitar, when you hit those low strings, it's like a piano, man. Just boy. That's why these work really good with clean sound. I mean, I know a lot of people doing the gent stuff and all that, and I mean it serves a purpose. Don't get me wrong, but um, when it's too much of that, it's like, okay, it almost could give the instrument like a bad rep, bad rep, So if you needed to do anything with overdrive and distortion, then it's like, okay, well, you're just doing that to fit in with anything modern, not realizing that whether it's a 7-string or even an 8-string guitar, if you take those low strings and do like volume swells, like for like an effect like a cello. And of course, it depends on what you're looking for and what particular style of music that interests you the most. But if a person is into any type of creative styles of music, and what I mean by that, of anything that's ambient sounding or progressive sounding or like jazz or classical, and then you look at these and then you kind of like stop yourself and say, oh no, I'm not gonna get one of those, because then it's like the metal guys, and if that's not your style of music, the metal and the modern stuff, don't look at it like that's only what this instrument is for. I mean, you look at guys like Ted Nugent, one of the greatest rock and roll guitarists of all time. He should be put in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'll tell you that right now. His picking technique is so clean. He is like the mirror image of Al Di Meola, but in rock and roll. And look at all those earlier albums, with Stranglehold and Weekend Warriors and all those albums. He was playing all those hollow body jazz guitars with all that overdrive on, you know? So it's the perception. You look at the instrument, oh, that's a jazz guy, and then you hear him play. Or they'll look at the perception of those type of guitars and like, oh, that's only for rockabilly. Not realizing all the things you could do if you're a creative person. So never hold back your limitation. Don't be limited to hold yourself back. I mean, um, be as creative as you want to be. But when you look at these especially from this point of view, sitting up here, because your head's up here, it's not over there. you got that extra string, and it can definitely throw you off. And the best thing to do is play, play the 7 string as much as possible, then grab your 6 string and watch what happens. On your standard 6 string, the neck feels like it's shrunk, got real thin. Let's see what's happening. Zach Dong, what is happening, man? Bumblebest, what is happening? Thank you for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate it. Yep, Southwest Florida. Rebel Rocker, again, thank you so much. It's like bass players. Now, bass players that went from the 4 string to the 5 string, you got the extra beat. And then when you grab the 6 string bass, I am pretty sure it's an extra high beat. I do know that back in the late 1990s, early 2000s, there was a company, and I used to see these guitars at Guitar Center. They had their 7 string guitars, but they also had their 7 string bass. So the 7 string bass had that extra low. I think it was a G sharp or G flat or whatever it was. You know, I think the company was called Gonklin or something like that. It was just started with a G. I could be wrong, but I do remember seeing them. And then whatever happened to that company, who knows? They disappeared, and all the instruments disappeared too. Makes you wonder what happens with all these companies. What they do with all their inventory? Do they just like smash them and sell them the parts to someone else? Maybe, I don't know. But okay, so here's something to think about too. To get used to this when you're doing like scale patterns and melodies, and let's say you want to do something, get creative with the walking bass line in that, which is something I'm working on right now. So, but to make life simple, so that you understand what your notes are. If you leave the low B tuned to B, what you're gonna have is a low B and an E string, exactly like your first and second string. You know, high B, high E. Now you can say high B because that's your low B. So just keep in mind of this. If you take all natural notes, you're gonna have this B, C, D, E, F, G, right? Well, same thing up here. B, C, D, E, F, G, and so forth. So you'll have, well, I'll just, on this top string, let's go all the way to the 12th fret. You have B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And then C, D, E, F, G, A, B, because you got 24 frets. So what you could do is with exercise patterns to get used to what that is, you know, where your notes are located, you do something simple like this. B, C, D, C, D, E, D, E, F, E, F, G, F, G, A, G, A, B, A, B, C, B, C, D, and then kind of walk it backwards. And take your time. No rush. You know, there's no race, no rush. Don't worry about it. Besides, the secrets of getting speed built accurately is to play things slowly, accurately, and musically. Now, let's say you want to isolate on the 5th fret position. And if you understand the C major scale, A minor scale, same thing, you know, sharps, no flats, you know, all natural notes. Here's an easy way to do this where you're in your midpoint right here. Okay? I mean, you could go further lower or you could go higher in pitch. So on your 5th fret on the B string, on the your 2nd string, your pattern is this. 5th fret, 6th fret, 8th fret. On the high E, it's 5th fret, 7th fret, 8th fret. And what those notes are is literally E, F, G, A, B, C. E, F, G, A, B, C. And if you do this in a circular motion, you get a good, nice little exercise in there. You get your good picking technique working on there. You're getting use of all 4 fingers in different combination, while the exact same notes are on the 2 top strings. E, F, G, A, B, C. Nothing changed, just the strings, just, you know. And actually, this is a good workout to get used to playing on the 2 top strings and kind of stretching your fingers out a little bit. And you just do it nice and easy and nice and even pace. You don't have to rush things, you know. Because it does take time to get used to this. Because it's a, like I said, it's a visual thing. And then again, pick up your sixth string, standard sixth string, and watch what happens. You're like, oh, something's missing. The neck got small. Your hands will stretch out if you're not used to it. If you're used to playing a nylon string guitar, it will definitely, you'll have no problems. No problems at all. Yeah. I just bought a secondhand. Oh, okay. With a Floyd Rose, edge, nice. I don't have a clue what to use it for. Well, you see, here's the thing. To get the inspiration, just check out different videos. You know, here's the best thing. Because of with YouTube, now no one's got to go, but there's no more record stores anymore. But back in the day, we used to go to record stores and experiment. We'd be buying the record, though, you know. Let's go over to this section. I go, this looks kind of cool. I guess we'll buy this, right? And then check it out and see what happens. You know, what are you going to hear? And if you feel like, oh, crap, I wasted my money. This sucks. I don't like this. Put it on the back burner. See, you don't have to do that now because everything's on YouTube, right? So my point I'm trying to make here is check out different videos with different styles of music. And just watch. Especially with live performances, you know. I don't know about anyone out there. Live performances always inspired me more than studio. You know, studio's fun, but with the live, it's right there. It's as it's happening, you know. And I'm not talking about after they do post-production. I'm not a really big fan of post-production, guys. You know, it serves its purpose when you have to sell a polished product. I understand that. But it isn't how it's really happening, you know? Because how are you going to get the inspiration to go out there and play? You thinking it's one way, then you find out it really wasn't that way. You know? Sometimes you got to see it as it is, and then it kind of inspires you to go out. Now you can go out and do the same thing and not have to worry, right? But my point is, yeah, experiment with it, you know? If you have it tuned just to B, right? When you play your B minor chords, let's see, look how off tuned it is. See, I gotta change these strings. Yeah. So you're playing a B minor chord in the second position. Your root note is on your A string. Well, what you do, if you don't want that low E to ring out, but you want the low B to ring out, the flesh of this finger, as you play that bar, just have it rest up against the string, not on your E string, just up against, so you get... Chord progression. Now I'm just taking a B minor, open A, then to play a G. This actually forms a G major 7. You know, see, a lot of times people are under the impression that if I have 7 strings or an 8 string, I have to always use all those strings. No. They're there when you do need them. Real quick before I forget, one thing I have noticed with this guitar, because it seems like it's a little bit of a longer scale, my low E, even when it was tuned, just like on the Les Paul or the Ibanez, it seems to have a deeper sound. Only because it's a little bit longer scale, frets a while. This means it's almost like it's a baritone. Um, it does take a while to get used to. Now I'm going to show you something real quick here. If you drop this to A, there's a little thing you could do here. Okay, so now it's in drop A. Well, when you play your chords where the root note is on the A string, what you could do, that note there is D, and that becomes D. So you could actually fret it, you get an extra low tone. So if I do something like this, and then if I'm laying down bass line, my root fifth and octave is literally this. The only thing I notice, then I feel like I would want to bump up this gauge string to a 60 gauge, because right now this is a 58, because I don't like that loose. Well, it's not too bad, but I do like it when it's a little bit tight because of my picking end. Now here's something really cool. One of the first videos I did with this thing, I just plugged it straight into the Roland KC amp, no effect, with a little bit of reverb on the amp, but actually no pedals or nothing like that. Is I took A major 7 chord, but I did my low A, and then went to my E major 7. And then one of the songs I've got where my opening chord happens to be E major 7. A major 7. Back and forth to E major 7 to A major 7. Now I'm going D major 7 to G major 7. So in this case, when I'm playing my D major 7 with my root note on the A string, I could go ahead and fret that top string. It'll blend. And I do kind of like that, you know. Now, keep this in mind as you're doing scale patterns, because you shifted this. It's just like when you do a drop D tuning. You shifted your string. So, remember how we were doing our pattern with E, F, G, A, B, C? Well, this is still A, B, C. But then to do the E, F, G, you got to go down here. So see what happens? Because since you dropped the tone, you got to come up to pick up those notes. So it would be this: E, F, G, A, B, C. Now I'll verify that. So now we have low A, right? A, second fret is B, third fret is C. D is 5th fret, E now is the 7th fret, F is the 8th fret, G is the 10th fret, and A is the 12th fret. So it's basically unison with your A string, you know? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Now, I had a student back in when I was teaching back up in Aurora, Illinois, and he bought an 8-string guitar by a company called Agile Guitars, and it was a real nice guitar, and his scale length was definitely longer than this. And the first thing you notice is that when he went to do a bend on the high E string, as hard as he bent it up, it appeared that he was only doing a half step bend because of the fret spacing was longer. So I had to get used to that. So I told him, "Mrs. Well, to accommodate that, then it's now when you do your bend and you don't want to pop strings, or you just feel like, wow, man, I'm maxed out where I could bend my notes. Well, then use that as your half step bend, but then when you want the full step, it would have to be a slide." And I told him, I says, it's good to give a different feel note wise, you know, bending a note versus sliding up to the whole step note that you're trying to achieve on your bend. So I said, just keep that in mind, or go with extra light gauge strings on the tops and heavy bottoms. But he did say that it felt very strange to him. It felt very weird, you know, and he liked it. Another thing he noticed, and this is what I heard a lot of people say, and this is what I mean by this post-production stuff, Dan. It's cool. It's cool for listening pleasure, okay? Not for teaching. Not for teaching. And I know there's going to be some people that's going to disagree with me on it. If you are not fully disclosing exactly what you're doing, people are going to misinterpret. So what he thought, all those recordings and all the stuff he saw on YouTube with that really nice 8-string guitar and that low bottom end, he thought, ooh, this is going to be cool because, see, now I could play part of the bass with my pedals and my guitar amp. And it didn't work out like that. All it sounded was simply like this. Here. No different than if I do this. He thought it was going to have that clean low bottom end sound, and or at least it would sound fuller, and it doesn't. Even with this, it sounds better this way, you know, because it's a clean tone. What I told him you have to do, and I don't have it set up right now, but usually how it's set up, when I have my other pedal board with the Digitech pedals, I have it also set where I have another output going into the RP360 XP pedal. So when I want to fade in bass, that sound is clean. So if I'm doing, let's say, kind of riff oriented stuff, whatever it might be, I'm just randomly doing things. When I play it with that extra clean tone bass, and especially if it's set in 2 different amps, but even if it's set to 1, you'll still hear the clean bass come through. See, that's basically what you have to do. It's not like you could buy these things and all of a sudden magically you're going to get that extra low tone. You'll get a low tone, but it's still going to be the guitar sound. You know what I mean? To get that extra low tone, you got to run it into an octave divider. And I'll tell you honestly, I don't know about the electro harmonics, which I got the Mel 9 right now hooked up. That's what this is. That is, okay, the Mel 9. And then this is also the synth SY1 pedal. I know Electro Harmonics does make the B9, which is supposed to be like bass guitar. Now, I can't say anything bad about that. I don't know if it will actually give you that feel of a low bottom end. I did hear what the Helix had. up in St. Petersburg, but the guy was playing it while he had background music going on. So it's like, okay, I can't really. I did hear that it could do, but I still did not hear that low, smooth bottom end. But the Digitech RP, the RP 355 and the RP 360, there's this patch in there called Play Your Bass. That, when you plug it into, your guitar cab, you'll hear the bottom end. But especially when you run it into a PA speaker, you're gonna feel that bottom end. It's like you swear there's a bass player. Now, I guess if I never really did this where I don't download any effects off of the internet. I don't do any of that. And I'll get into manipulate the EQ a little bit, but I'll take it setting what I'm going to use it for, and I'll just leave it like that. So I don't really try to see if I can do slapping or popping on it. But for that simple low end bottom sound that I would want, yeah, it works out great. It worked out really nice, and that's what I mean. When I run this through there, I get that real nice smooth low end. Let's see. Did you just buy this guitar? Yeah, we bought this guitar, a couple of days before New Year's Eve. So we did the New Year's Eve gig with this guitar, and then we did New Year's Day gig with this guitar, and then we did the last Monday with this guitar. That's when I was freezing. The temperature dropped down here, man, and I wasn't dressed for it, and I got a little bit of a cold due to it, and you could feel the instrument was getting cold, And then yesterday's gig, so we already done a few gigs with it. Wheaties Guitar Studio, what's happening? Let's see. I have a 6-string Jackson. I used to have a Wheaties guitar. I used to have a Jackson. Oh yeah, let's see. You had the Jackson Dinky and the Jackson Randy Rhoads V. My Dinky has a JB 59. Oh, those are great pickups, man. Yeah, those are great pickups. Back in 1997, this is my second Jackson. Back in 97, I bought a black Dinky reverse headstock 6-string guitar. And that guitar was very heavy. It was one of the ones that came out of Indonesia. And it was very heavy. And I kept that guitar until about, I think, 2014, maybe 2013. And one of my students, we did a trade because the guitar he didn't like how fat the neck was. And he liked the neck on the Jackson. And I kind of liked the way his guitar looked. And I said, if you want to trade, we'll go ahead. And we did the trade. And that was that. I did a lot of shows with that Jackson. It was a great guitar. Definitely a great guitar. It had a kind of flat neck. This has got kind of a flat neck, kind of like the Ibanez guitars. I know these pickups are stock, but to me they almost give me the impression they fall between not exactly a P90, but a P90 and a mini humbucker. They're a lot of people say, oh, those are crap pickups. And yeah, if you could use it for extreme metal, yeah, maybe. But for certain things that I'm doing, they seem to be working fine. Especially when I use it in between pickup. It just seemed to work out for me. But everyone's got to do what's going to, work for them. What's nice with inexpensive guitars is that you could really experiment with the pickups, with the pots, everything. You could really go to town with them. Let's see. So yeah, the Jackson V and I do like the Jackson Kelly too. I mean, those are nice. Definitely nice. Let's see. I think mine sounds dark too, as you say, almost a baritone. Yeah, it's almost like a baritone. It because of the scale length, it just seems to be a little bit more like deeper. Now I do know that there was that I guess this is like over a year ago now, with the string gauge. Now I'm not gonna say anything that what they were saying as far as I can't remember exactly what they were saying. Sorry about that. Uh, does it matter if you're using light gauge or heavy gauge strings, and maybe for certain tones that they were talking about that was registering, but they're gonna, but you know, Rick and those guys, they're gonna agree to this. When you do use a thicker string, there is a certain depth that is there. That's why bass guitar strings are thick. You could take the note on the G string on your bass guitar and play that E on that G string. That E will be this E, but it's gonna have a deeper. It's gonna be the same pitch. It's just deeper. And again, if you use synthesizers and you got the GK pickup, you will, and especially with the acoustic or even just the electric guitar, you know, with like the BC Rich here. When I play my E on the 7th fret on the A string, it has a thinner sound than if I'm playing the E on the 12th fret on the low E string. Even though they're the same pitch, it's because of the thickness. And then, like I said, when you're using a synthesizer, the bottom end opens up a little bit. You know, it's you really would have to be in the room to hear it. You know, you could definitely noticeable. So that's what I mean. You know, your string spacing and then the thickness of your strings. So it is going to make a difference. It will definitely make a difference. And where it makes a difference for me is my picking. That's why I like, you know, tighter strings because of my picking technique. So it's fun to do, you know. It's fun to do, and what I do like about with this concept here is that now it's not just for, I could use it for like jazz and walking jazz lines. I could also start bringing in some of the progressive rock music, and where it's combining obviously the classical and stuff like that, because that is a part of my playing style. You know, what I do at these places that you see me playing, I do like the I call it the little jazzy, laid back, chilling out music. It fits perfect for a dinner or lunch, you know, kicking back. But what is so cool with chord progressions like that, to me at least, it falls in the realm of I could come up with strong melodies and then I could come in with the speed bursts. You know, it's the kind of music that sits right there in the middle. But now adding this with the lower string, it brings in that a little bit of a depthness, you know. So again, like the song that I was playing called "Walking on Water," it's basically it's real simple. It's just a B minor to an A to a G. It kind of opens up into that realm to combine it with what I'm doing, you know. Let's see what we got here. Randy Tritt, what's happening, man? Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. See, my 7th string is very, very heavy. It's dark brownish body. Have you any clue what the wood could be? Well, you know what? Sometimes, let's see, metal gaming. The type is real small. Anyways, let me see if I can address the question here. It could be a combination of a mahogany. Although I know people say, "Oh, mahogany is not usually heavy." No, there's some mahogany that is very heavy. You buy some furniture that's solid mahogany, you pick that up, you're gonna find out real fast how heavy mahogany could be, depending on how they're getting into where when they take the tree into the milling station and all that. Um, you could get like a very dense part of it, you know. I also do know that maple is heavy, you know. For instance, this where is it? Yeah, this right here, this Ibanez artist is slightly heavier, I think by a pound or two, than our Gibson Les Paul standard. I mean, and it did have a whammy system. So there is that chunk of wood, just like on the Stratocaster, and look how thick this body is. If I get it this way, so it's thick like a Les Paul. So the amount of wood that they took out of this guitar, if they would have not taken that out, this guitar would be even more heavier. So this is a 1983 guitar model. From the year 1983, so it's not the model number. It is a 1983 model, and it's a mahogany body with a carved maple top. I know the BC Rich Warlock is a neck through. Maybe that's mahogany. Maybe the neck is maple. I don't know, but it's pretty heavy. It's almost as heavy as the Les Paul, you know. And I don't know. I just think maybe certain woods have a certain density. Maybe the way it's sitting, you know. See, back in the day, you know, got a heavy guitar, man, that's awesome, you know. And to me, as I still think a little bit like that. But what I do like with the lighter guitars, they seem to resonate just as much, you know. Okay. Go over some of that stuff again. So it could be my guess, and it depending on how old your Jackson is or your 7 string is, it could be a mahogany. A lot of times, you know, back in the day, when you bought your guitar, you could easily, which is weird because we didn't have the internet back then, but usually you have a catalog. It would give the specs on your guitar, the type of wood it was, this, that, and the other. Or if you bought it brand new, you'd get a little card, like a warranty card, and it would give the specs on that guitar. And nowadays it's like, okay, I guess it's this, I guess it's that, maybe this and maybe that, you know. Not all of it, but some of it is. You know, it's like a guessing game. Uh, it's my GD, almost never, never heard of the name before. Let me see something. Now that's interesting. I do know, there are certain brands that come out, you know, and then they like disappear. Like I mentioned, the Gonklin guitar, you know, if that was what it was pronounced, that brand, and then disappeared. Another brand here that people might not know of, and it was around in the early 2000s, but not very heavily, is this. And it's not a G&L. It is a company called Camelot Guitars. And this particular model is called First Night. I don't know if you could see that. And we were going to endorse this company. So it's, you know, it's got some scratches there from my fingernail, you know. And then this, I think a belt hit it or something. And I don't know if you could see where those little holes. I had my Roland pickup on here. But it is a bird's eye maple neck and fretboard. It's a great guitar. This type of bridge was one of the first ones I've seen like it, with the roller saddles. And we got this in 2000 in either 2002 or 2003. And they were based out of here, down here in Florida. I can't remember exactly where. And they were, they were doing all right. They had the band Slaughter was using these guitars on one of their tours. And then, within about a year or two, they disappeared, totally disappeared. And that was that. The Laguna company, the Laguna guitars, but see, Guitar Center owned that. They disappeared. Now you got Mitchell. So you have all these companies that like to come and go, like Hondo guitars we had back in the 70s. And then you had Lotus guitars. And then I had before I bought my Ibanez Artist, my first one I had was a 1978 model. Before I had that, I had a Magnum Les Paul copy. And before that, I had a guitar from a pawn shop called Checkmate, And this is back in the 70s. So, yeah, it could be something that, it's weird. If you try to look up that guitar and you probably can't find it, that's what's frustrating. Like the Monroe custom guitar I had. Now, the video I posted up, it's somewhere on my channel. It's a real grainy video because what I had to do, it was on a VHS tape, and I had to play it on the TV screen here and point the phone at the picture. And that tape was already a third or fourth copy. And back in the day with your VHS tapes, to save time, to get more movies on it, you could do like the super long play, but then it just degrades everything. And that's what it did to that video. But you can't find, it's hard to find that guitar. It's kind of like the Marshall plexiglass I had, the 212. It was called the Super Lead 100. I had that amp. And I can't find it on the internet anywhere. So it's almost like people, they don't believe that you had that or it exists, and it did. It's really weird, man. Let's see. Who made my 7-string? I have no clue. I bought it secondhand. Yeah. Well, you see, this is what's interesting, because you might run into some of these secondhand guitars, and if you can keep that, because you don't know, you could be sitting on a gem right there. You really don't know. That's like this. I got it somewhere. Maybe it's in the other room. The Ibanez TS10 tube screamer. A friend of mine, he gave it to me, some of his other pedals, and tried to sell it for me. He said, just keep it. But now that pedal's worth a lot of money. And I had the TS808 back when it first came out. Paid $35 for it. And I lost that one. When I moved, I lost it a long time ago. But see, you don't know. And this is just it. Like my Gibson Flying V. I had a blonde finish Gibson Flying V. I think it was called the Flying V2 or something like that. You'll see some videos with people having a Sunburst one. And all it was a Sunburst, no pickguard, had body binding on the top, not on the back side, but body binding on the top. Well, I had a blonde natural wood finish one like that. I bought it in 1983, so it was a 1982 model. Can't find it anywhere, man. I try to look up on YouTube, can't find it anywhere. And I know I had that guitar because I bought it. I was 19 years old, and I don't drink, so I know it was not a drunken stupor. You know what I mean? So, yeah, if you could hang on to your gear that you get, try to hang on to it. I know when times get tough, you got to take care of family, family first, always, you know what I mean? But if you don't have to get rid of something, try not to. Because the problem is, time does go by, and we don't realize it and then next thing you know, it's gone. So let's see what we got here. Maybe I have a gem. Yeah, that's why I'm wondering. Yeah, if I were you, I would keep that guitar. I would keep that guitar, man, because like I said, you don't know the rarity of it. Okay, for instance, Deb has a Korean-made Squier Stratocaster, and from when she first bought it till when she looked up by the serial number, the value of it went up. So see, you don't know. That's just it. And I know I had a made, I think it was a made in Japan Squier when they were first coming out, a white one. I was buying so many guitars and trading. I was, you just losing my mind, man. And it's like, damn, I wish I would have kept all that stuff. But you don't know. See, that's just it. Okay, so that's the Mel 9 pedal. Now, I thought I heard someone say on one of a video demo that the Mel 9, you could use it with a bass guitar all the way down to the low A. So that would be equivalent to this. Now, I dropped this to A. It's a little off tuning. That's what I mean. You gotta really, But like I said in the beginning of this video, to get used to these things, you just have to simply play them a lot. And play them a lot, then pick up your regular standard 6-string guitar. So you get used to this visual thing that's going on. Because again, it's when you do your chords. So for instance, here is the E minor 7, a B7, or because now I got this dropped in A, let's go to D minor 7, A minor, A major, no, yeah, D minor 7, B, A7. Now here's what's really strange, okay? Because I have this dropped to A, when I play, and if I want to get the full effect of this low string, when I'm playing my D minor 7 with my root on the A string, and I fret that to get that low D. If you can hear that. What's weird is when I come up a set of strings to play my A7, but then I drop my index finger to play the open A. Drop these fingers down, bring that up for my D, bring my A. So you get it's a weird feeling. For a certain quarter, chording and stuff like that, it sounds pretty cool. Okay, let's see what we got going on here. Yeah, perhaps I can send you a pic on Facebook or Discord. Yeah, you could do that. Or do you have the guitar and just do like on YouTube, like a demo, video demo? Then this way everyone's gonna see, and who knows, you might run into someone that's a collector or someone that's an expert and say, keep that guitar, man. Or if you want to buy it, if someone approaches you and you're interested and they want to lowball you, they'll say it's valued, but then they'll lowball you, but yet they sound almost desperate to grab the guitar. That means it's worth more than what they're asking you for. says developed in Japan, born in USA, must be a little, yeah. Because usually, and you said you bought it secondhand, okay? And if some of the parts look like they're old, like more than 20 years old, chances are, yeah, it was a company that started to outsource to Japan, or a company that was just merging with Japan, you know. Like I said, um, Deb has a Squire Strat made in Korea, and I do know either had a Squire Strat. I'm pretty sure it was Squire when it first came out, made in Japan. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive it says made in Japan. And that was the late 1980s. Yeah, right. Yeah, it does. Yeah, Zach. You know it is with these synth pedals. Now the thing is with the SY one. Here's the thing with this pedal. It has a hold function, so you turn it on. Now as I hold down on it, it'll sustain. If I do not run that through a little bit of a reverb or a little bit of delay, when I release, it just instantly stops. It could be cool for certain things, not cool for everything, right? With the Mel 9, you have this thing called a sustain that's on there. So if I do, see, it sustains, which is nice. So it's not an abrupt stop, you know. It's just the way these things are. That's all. Let's see. Maybe a good idea on YouTube. Yeah, so some can see it and recognize it. Yeah, yeah, metal. I would definitely. That's one thing you could definitely do, because you might have other people that might be experts on that. You might even have the guy that built a guitar, and maybe he wants to resurrect the company, and you don't know it. You got that guitar, and he says, "Man, here's someone that has the guitar, and maybe I could reach out to he could reach out to you, and maybe eventually work out a deal." Because sometimes people will want to get their companies back up and going. Look what happened with Dean Guitars. Now, I know Dean's going through some issues again, but I remember when Dean was real popular in the 70s when it was first coming out. And, then through the 80s, then they disappeared. Then they had like the Dean Baby Z, and what they were doing is their headstocks were real small. The little V shape was real small. And then they had the smaller style body guitars and that, and then the company, went changed it. Like with BC Rich, they constantly is going through this, that, and the other. That's why I'm glad that we grabbed this thing. This guitar is now 22 years old. We've had this guitar, and this is great, man. This thing is beautiful, man. It's got a nice flame burst neck through. And this guitar, man, I'll tell you what, I did a lot of recordings with this thing, man. A lot of shows with this. And that's why I got the Roland pickup on here for the guitar synth. And it sounds great, man. See, if I would have put that on here, I would have to. Well, what I would do, because how those pickups are, it would be across the seventh through the. It would be from B to B in the high E. I wouldn't have it as the synth because they don't make them as a 7 string. They only make that pickup as a for 6 string. But with these other pedals I have, I really don't need that. You know, I think it has a Ibanez head on it. Let's see. I think it has a Ibanez head on it. Yeah. So if you mean like Ibanez headstock, let's see. Let's see. I'm gonna come down to a GD. GDFO. Ah, you know what? It could be. I know you had the Geo, Ibanez Geos, but you see, it could have been. It could have been something where. It could have been something where Ibanez was experimenting, because I do know before they had the RG series, they had the Roadsters, and they're the headstocks that you see on their RG series. If you look at the Ibanez Iceman, Paul Stanley model, that headstock was out in the 70s, and what Ibanez, this is my personal opinion now, what Ibanez I think did when they were experimenting, when they went with their Roadster series, the headstock was slightly different, actually a lot different. And then when they came out with the RG series, I forget what year they started to come out with those. Then they went with the Ibanez Iceman headstock, but instead of have the 3 and 3 tuners, then they went with the 6 and line tuners, but yet they kept that shape. So it could be something that they were experimenting with. I do know Ibanez, God, this had to been maybe 2000, anywhere from 2006 to 2012 or somewhere in that time frame, when Ibanez came out with that kind of like an Explorer but was a star body. It was like a reversion of the 80s model that they had. I forget what it's called. But Ibanez also had a guitar with a kind of a unique shape, and I wish to God I would have bought it. And I didn't. And now I can't find that shape anyway. I can't even remember what it was called. But it was kind of a really unique body shape. And I think what happens is the designers that get on board with these companies, for whatever reason, if it doesn't work out with the company, or there's a falling out, or you took that design from me, now I'm going to sue you, then it gets shelved, and then they pull the product because there's a threat of a lawsuit. And that's what happened with, let me grab this guitar. That's what happened with this guitar, which is called the lawsuit guitar, which I got to put another string on this guy. This guy right here. This is a beautiful guitar. And it's not a Dean or anything like that, or Paul Reed Smith. It is an Epiphone. It's called their Spotlight guitar. This is a 1988 model. It is a neck through. Smoother heel jointing on the Paul Reed Smith. But I remember back in 1987, 87 or 88, 1988 was. Yeah, 1988. There was a guitar store. There was a kind of a chain of guitar stores. Small, not as big as Guitar Center, but it was called Guitar Shack, Guitar Plus, then it changed into Guitar Plus, but it was called Guitar Shack. In Arlington Heights, Illinois, they had one of their stores. They had one in Clark Street in Chicago, because I lived down the street from there. But in the Arlington Heights one, they had a black one of these with the dot inlays. They didn't have these. They had dots. I'm pretty sure it had dot inlays. Maybe it had these. It was just so long ago, I don't remember. But I do remember it was a black one. I had put some money down on layaway. I was going to buy it. And then I got impatient, and I took the money and transferred it over to the little GK stereo chorus amp that they had at the time. But in that time, I never saw these guitars again. So that was 1988. And then when I was at the 1989 NAMM show in Chicago, I was in the Gibson booth. I was trying to describe this guitar to the Gibson guys. And they were like, "Oh no, I don't know what you're talking about. No, no, we don't know what you're talking about." I didn't know what the name of the guitar, what it was called. And it was weird because you would think 1989 is only 1 year away from 1988. So if this production, if nothing happened with these guitars, you'd see them in line with the other ones. And that's when the Epiphone Les Paul models were coming out. So he had all their Epiphone Les Pauls, but none of these, absolutely none of these. And it's not because they were trying to push the Les Paul. It's because there was a lawsuit going on with this, and they didn't want to get involved. So usually that's what happens. They'll pull it off the shelf and say, you know what, adios. We're not going to put this. We're not going to get ourselves in trouble, and this, that, and the other. Things happen like that. So with that guitar you have, that 7-string, it could be something, like that. And like I said, with that Ibanez that I was describing, that I couldn't find the body shape anywhere. It just completely disappeared, man. So it could have been someone, is going to sue somebody, and that's all you got to hear, and then they start pulling out and says, you know what, forget it, man. Let's see. Now, I could be wrong, but I'll tell you what. It's now Dean is popular again. Also, cause of Dave Mustaine. Yep. Used it exactly. Oh, you have a Dean Mustaine. Oh, yeah. Keep that guitar, man. Because I know Dave Mustaine went with Gibson. See, here's the thing. This whole thing with Gibson, Sue, and Dean. That Dean Flying V, I was in high school. I was, a sophomore or a junior? Like 1979. Well, if it was 79, I was a junior. I graduated in 1981. But we had the Guitar Player magazine, and you open up, and there's a picture of the blonde girl in a bikini holding a Dean Flying V. And, that goes back to the 70s. So all this time now, I'm not going to fault anybody at Gibson, because what it could have been is, it gets shelved, it gets, you're going to go to court, then there's a continuance, okay, then we got to do this, that, and the other. All these things happen, so maybe that's what was going on. But it didn't surprise me that they were not going to win that case, what are you going to do, It's crazy. You're gonna sue everybody that's out there. I do think what Gibson is doing is smart with the Gibson store. I really do. I think now this guy he took this over, and he's like, you know what, this is what we're gonna do, and I think it's a smart move, because now that I saw a video, but I guess it was posted up a couple of months ago, but I just saw it today about NAMM being canceled. I think we've reached a point where it's not going to really matter too much, In this day and age, it's too bad Carvin couldn't survive as Carvin, because what Carvin was doing back in the day, you just get the catalog and you order directly from them, Fast forward to now, instead of a paper catalog, you got everything on the internet. So why even bother for these companies? If I was a builder, if I was a guitar builder, I would opt the option to build a guitar and go to the local guitar guitar shows that are open to the public. So I know I could sell my merchandise and not try to put it in this. Because what NAMM is, it's, National Association of Music Merchants. And I mean, it served its purpose in the heyday when there was not all this that's on. Now we got all this as options. It's NAMM is gonna come to the point where it's like, okay, it'd be something that is kind of cool to do. It'd be nice it's open to the public, but if they don't do that, it's like, okay, you keep your private party, but it will start to diminish, because working musicians like us, we could care less what NAMM is doing. We use this as tools. We love the guitars. It's an art. Absolutely, it's an art, but it's also a tool for us. And you know what? If all their ideas is the same as what I got, but they just happen to bring it out in a color red or green or something, but it's the same damn thing, Why am I going to pay an extra $100 for something that does what I already have? Just because it's a different color. It's not going to do me any good or any people that's out there gigging any good. I think what has happened, you know, they'll have their niche with YouTube and social media. And I give them a lot of credit for that because I do love doing YouTube. It's great. But I also love doing live performances, you know? And the whole thing is that's the whole idea when you play music is, play live. You could do record too. I shouldn't just say play live. But I think what has happened is a lot of these people jumped on only one bandwagon, and that's 100% YouTube. And it's new, I understand, go for it. But it seemed that they took a huge eye off of live performers, you know? And they went almost 99.9% on YouTube. Well, what about all of us that are performing out there? See, they forget about us. And that's a big mistake because we're the ones that people will actually be able to touch our instruments. See, you can watch what I'm doing on YouTube, but you can't put your hand out through the screen and tell what gauge strings I'm using or anything like that. You know what I mean? But in a live performance, you come out and say, hey, check it out, man. Feel the weight of the guitar. Oh, yeah, it's pretty okay. I feel balanced. Pick it up and play it a little bit, because you're right there. And the problem is, these manufacturers that jumped only on one bandwagon and forgot the others, they could shoot themselves in the foot big time because you see, as we're playing, that when the people come out and they watch us play, they're going to want to be able to see it and what it could really do in a real world situation. That is right there, the proof right there. Because you see, the majority of people that when they buy this stuff, they get the idea of playing out. What are you going to play out? You know what I mean? So I'm not saying isn't important. YouTube is a great tool. It really is. But it's when they go in one direction, they forget about the other direction, and now they got to go backtrack and play catch up. I met a lot of people that they don't like the way these manufacturers had started their valued their importance. It's almost like they devalued the live performers for YouTubers. And I'm not knocking anyone on YouTube because I go on YouTube. But you cannot disregard what's been going on for decades because those people are very, very strong out there, man. And we're the ones that are going to buy the gear to use it. And we could definitely go to using something else. Definitely. And half of us, what's really been happening because of all the stuff that's been happening with you can't get parts here, you can't get this, they'll start making their own. They'll start doing what's called the homegrown. We'll build our own guitars. We'll get our own parts. I got so and so. He works at a machine shop. I could take all these parts, and he could, fabricate something that's just like this or real similar. And then we start getting the ideas. Ooh, let's develop this. Let's turn this into a product. You know, and we could get our attorneys and we get patented. So what if we don't go to now? Who cares? We'll stay local because we know we're in an area where it's, high traffic, high tourists and that. So we know that we will always be in business because there's always things happening down here. We don't need to go nationwide or worldwide. We don't need to go on the internet. We'll stay local. We got enough business here. And that's when these people start to realize, oh, maybe I shouldn't have taken my eye off of that ball. Just a suggestion to them. That's all. Let's see, guys. My thing just flashed. I'm gonna have to shut this off because I gotta put this on the charger. Yeah, Dave Mustaine. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Oh yeah, no, Zach. It is not for everybody. It is a nice looking guitar, and it's just something for an extended range. That's really just it. Yeah, everyone has got to do what they really want. You know, because you see, you're the one it's your hands. Your fingers are attached to your hands, and it's gonna be your ideas, and then you do what you want. Be creative with what you have, you know, and that's what it's all about. Yeah, it turned into one big YouTube. Yeah, you know what, Zach? You're right. The NAM has turned into one big YouTube hangout. Nothing wrong with that. But my wife, she's been to several of those NAMs out in Anaheim, and she put it this way: it's a cool experience, but it's not what it cracks up to be. I think the big disappointment is when you see the arrogance with these people. That's a big turnoff. That's a huge turnoff, man. That's like I just like what, let those people sink, man. And they usually do, and it's sad because I don't want to ever say that about anybody, but I just don't want to get involved in all that. But I do know there's a lady I know that's got a music store, and she says NAMM is a waste. What the amount of money they want for a little 10 by 10, what, $6,000 or whatever it is now, and you got to pay extra for everything, and they do nothing for you. It's like, this is a joke, man. That's what I mean. If I was a builder, I wouldn't go to NAMM. Oh, come on, Dave, you get the stars. I don't need the stars. I'm going to set for the working person, the working man, the working woman out there that's playing, that wants the product. Here it is. I'll make money. I'll save money, not spending ridiculous amounts of money for a little tiny booth, you know. Then I got to pay for everything else. Oh, I can't move. If I go to plug it into a wall socket, I need a union electrician. I mean, come on, give me a break, you know. They nickel and dime. This is what happened. NAMM used to be in Chicago at McCormick Place. And then the union guys nickel and dime everybody out of business. Says, you know what, I'm out of here. Just like the electronics show used to be. They used to have a huge electronics show every year in Chicago, McCormick Place, downtown Chicago, right on the lakefront, Lake Michigan. And then they moved their electronics trade shows out to Vegas. Cheaper in Vegas than in Chicago. Why? The union guys are nickel and diming everybody, all the vendors. You can't afford to rent the booth. And then I gotta sell my product. Then if it's like NAMM, it's business to business, so you're not really selling it. You're hoping you get into a music store. I mean, really? It's just sad. It's really, really sad. And then you can see, like, for instance, how music got devalued. There's a video. I think he just posted up like a couple of days ago. Alex is his name. He does some of the product demos for Roland. There's a lot of fusion. He's a great guitar player. And he's playing, and he said, look, no one's paying attention. Nobody cares. He's playing, and people just walking by. There's a catch-22 on this, because music it's been bombarded in everybody's ears. Now anyone can grab whatever they want on their phones. It's not like it used to be, where it was one time special. You dress out, you dress up to go out. It was an event to go out to see a show. Even the local scenes. And when I was in the local metal scene back in Chicago, those places would be packed, and we were playing 100% original music. Sometimes we throw in a cover or two, but it was all original music, and people wanted to go out to see what their music is, what they could do. Now everything is covers. And I'm not knocking it. I'll do the covers, but when they glorify it to such a degree and they devalue people that write their own music, then there's something sad right there. Something real sad. And the only thing that could kind of turn this around, and I'll apply it to myself. I don't want to apply it to everyone else out there, because it is fun doing the covers, and some people, they're very, very good at doing covers, and that's their thing. God bless you. If that's your thing, you do, go for it. But if that day does come where they get very, very strong on shutting down cover bands, do not think that can't happen. Because with the loss of CD sales, DVD sales, with that loss, the bands that are out there, now they're making their money primarily, merchandise sale, t-shirts and that, but through ticket sales, them going out playing. The last thing they want to do is have a cover band open up for them that's playing their music. Because they could say, wait a minute, we're out there gigging. That's our music. We need to make money. Go write your own, man. You play my stuff. I gotta play. I gotta make money. That's mine. I own the rights to this, not you, not DistroKid or whatever. And I'm not trying to pick on those companies, but my point is that if they want to really get gung ho on this and hamper down on everything, there's nothing stopping them from doing it, and there's nothing anyone could do. And if you could say, well, I'll buy you. No, I don't want you to pay me. I'm out there playing. I'm not ready to retire. I want to go out there and play my music. I don't want you playing my music. So the day that happens with me, they say, Dave, we don't want you to play any of our stuff. Okay, that's fine. Thank you for, letting me do that. I appreciate it. But I'm not going to, oh, come on, man. Oh, that sucks. That's not fair. You got to look at it from their point of view. And not everybody is rich out there. Don't think all these people are, this is all BS that you see when everyone's got they're worth millions. How do you know? Are you their personal accountant? I'm not. I don't know. Maybe they got some serious financial problems. Well, that's their fault. Well, maybe it is their fault. But guess what? That's still, they own the rights to that music. That's still theirs. Guess what? They can do what they want. So, I think that could happen. I'm not saying it will happen, but I could see where it could happen, And I think that's why we're starting to see these companies now, like Fender. Instead of coming out with a modeling amp, they come out with a modeling amp out like their Fender Super Reverb. It's not going to sound like a Marshall. It's going to sound like a Fender. You know what I mean? We might start to see the dwindling of the modelers. We might. Only because these companies are good enough to produce their own product, their own sound. And I really think they should focus on that, because that's the era that I come from. You plugged into a PV, it sounded like a PV. You get your own sound. You couldn't afford the Marshall, you plug into the Marshall, you get the Marshall. You couldn't afford the Marshall, you buy something else. But you got as close to a sound as possible. You had to work it. And there's something magical when you got to put a little effort into it. You get very creative, and that's how all new music starts to come out, by being creative. But if you're trying to mimic what everything else is out there, there's no creativity. It's real interesting that one of the posts that Sweetwater put up was in the it was on the subject of being creative, not covering, not mimicking, but being creative. And I think that's what's missing. Anyways, I think it'll start to come back. One way or another, it'll start to come back. But anyways, my battery now just flashed again, and this thing's gonna shut down. Yeah, it's the big YouTube hangout. Yeah, I used about $3,700 a year playing. Brands, drums, food. Yep, sticks. Year playing, band making, CD worldwide, and never got a dime in return. You see what I mean? I've heard people say this, and I do agree. There's only really one industry that could really hurt musicians. You know what industry that is? That's the music industry. Your day job won't hurt you. Your day job will, as long as you show up to work and do what you're supposed to do, hey, we need the help. But it's the music that hurts, musicians. Something to think about. All right, my friends, I really appreciate you tuning in. This thing's going to shut down, man. And I really appreciate your time and that. I know we are playing from 6 to 9 tomorrow evening. We'll probably stream it live and see if I can come up with newer stuff. I've been trying to work on newer stuff. It's tough when you're doing all these shows. You don't really get a whole lot of time. But I do appreciate everyone tuning in. And till then, you guys have a great Sunday evening. And again, thoughts and prayers out for Sonia. Until then, my friends, you stay strong, safe, and true. Rock on, and God bless. Thank you for tuning in.